So welcome to our CIO virtual panel discussion moderated by Saxony Partners. Our esteemed guests today are Renee Galitis, CIO of Caliber Home Loans, Michael Bray, CIO of LeaderOne Financial, and Joe Hamilton, CIO of First Guaranty Mortgage Corporation. Before I get into intros, let me just set the stage. So my role as director at Saxony Partners involves helping our clients with digital strategy, helping them do more with their data. From our perch, if you will, as a management and digital consulting firm in banking and mortgage space, 2020 has been epic in many ways. So from everything from the PPP initiatives to the historically low interest rates, lending industries across the board have been whipsawed and forced to adapt quickly to these external shocks, obviously sparked by COVID. And we've been fortunate enough to help our clients execute on some of these initiatives to help kind of accelerate some of these things that have been necessary to adapt to the circumstances. Obviously, technology has been the center of the cyclone, if you will. So it only makes sense to bring together technology leaders within some of the most respected mortgage companies in the industry. And hear firsthand from you guys how you've been able to navigate the circumstances, what you've been going through, and really kind of what's next in the short term. If you can bust out your crystal ball for a moment. With that, I'd like to just start with some brief intros. Renee, do you want to go ahead and get us started?
Absolutely. Thank you, Angel. I appreciate it. My name is Renee Galitis from Caliber Home Loans. If you don't know Caliber Home Loans, we're a nationwide lender. We have branch presence across the country. We also have direct-to-consumer, wholesale business, and correspondent. So we're all in all channels of mortgage lending. We also are a very large servicer, so the mortgages that we originate, we service as well. Our corporate offices are in Dallas, Texas, so I am calling in from Coppell, Texas, which is right outside of Dallas. I've been with Caliber Home Loans for a little over a year now, and I've been in technology my whole career. Started as a developer, and now CIO of a major mortgage company, and I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, thank you. Michael, you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you. It's great meeting you, Renee. Thanks, Angel. Michael Brady with LeaderOne Financial, Chief Information Officer, Chief Information Security Officer, so I've got some dual roles. Been with LeaderOne for a little over 14 years. We're about a 27-year-old company, founded in Kansas City. As well as Renee's group, we're a nationwide lender. We do quite a bit of wholesale through the TPO channels. We're starting up a direct-to-consumer infrastructure, but most everything is 100% boots on the ground with retail for LeaderOne. Our corporate office is in Overland Park, Kansas. It's pretty vacant right now, but yeah, we've got everybody dispersed in all 50 states. So it's been interesting for that too. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Joe?
Yeah, and I'm Joe Hamilton, and I'm the CIO at First Guaranty Mortgage. Like the others on the call here, we are nationwide. We also deal in all three channels: correspondent, wholesale, and retail. Although in retail, we're just consumer direct there. First Guaranty has been around since 1987. I've been a part of the organization since 2017. So.
Awesome. Thanks for being on, guys. I appreciate it. Why don't we start with you, Joe? I'd like for you to take us back where you were. It seems like so long ago. Where were you pre-COVID in terms of outlook and agenda for 2020? Tell us what you were thinking before the stimulus, if you will.
Yeah. So. In some ways, we're at where we thought we would be at. We thought this would be a big year as far as business. We thought the rates were going to be down. We didn't think it would be this far, but we thought the rates would be down. production would be up. And so our plan was to really work hard on wringing out inefficiencies especially in our manufacturing process, and work through some significant initiatives there. And a matter of fact, we had started those initiatives before the COVID began to hit. And the other area that's always important, but was important for us, was to continue to grow our cybersecurity posture. We were in an area that we had some issues that we wanted to deal with and get resolved, and so we were working hard to improve in those areas.
Also, it sounds like you were pretty well positioned to handle what was coming. And Renee, were you in a similar position as Joe, or were you thinking differently right before COVID hit? Where were you and the company at?
Yeah, we were same. We expected it to be a very good year, not quite this good, but a very good year. Mm-hmm. Certainly growth as a company, but we've been on a transformation journey for about a year now, maybe a little bit more. And so we were very focused on transforming our customer journey, as well as, reducing our cycle times and reducing our cost per loan, really looking at how we can automate more through technology. Yeah. And really increase the capacity that one person could do through the mortgage cycle. So, I'll say that what we were doing a little bit slower was, like, we were looking at our team's rollout. We were getting on a kind of a slow track, prepared to roll it out. So certainly when COVID hit, priorities changed temporarily. We didn't get off the tracks for transformation, but certainly we accelerated some things. So although at the beginning of the year it was more of a planned effort on some of the items that we had, like Joe, security awareness certainly became big with work from home, getting everybody home, making sure that we had the proper technologies and bandwidth to support people who have never worked from home. We have 4 centers of excellence, our main offices, 2 here in Dallas, 1 in Oklahoma, and 1 in San Diego. And they were not work from home people. So it was, we didn't have that in mind at all at the beginning of the year. We were very focused on transformation.
Yeah, I hear that a lot of companies that was kind of the thing that was really challenging, was everybody that was used to being in the office all of a sudden at home. How do we get them with the right equipment? How do we make sure it's secure rapidly, right? Because the volume's there, you need to capture it, but at the same time you need to protect your employees from what was happening with COVID. Michael, were you in the same position, or were you guys in the midst of a transformation, pretty prepared, or where were you guys at?
Yeah, we were very prepared. I started this journey 2 years ago, making our company completely virtual, what we could, and so we were within a day. Everybody was transferring from an office environment to their home environment, and ready to go. So it was pretty exciting to see 700 employees plug in, plug out, and ready to go. So we had a few issues with some of the mobile phones, but that's because they had a BlackBerry, and so it was interesting.
No way.
We didn't realize what they had, but we had 0 issues. Unfortunately, we couldn't virtualize that post-closing, with all those hard docs coming in from title stuff. But hopefully, the e-close gets really pushed out from the GSEs and makes that a lot easier. So, but yeah, we handled it pretty well. Our 2020, we were pretty conservative. We had 2020 was a recruiting year as well. Trying to absorb large infrastructures coming in. We had to obviously put people at bay just to temporarily and say, hey, unfortunately, do this, and we had a lot of folks ready to come on board, and we had to push the big pause button. So luckily, we got through everything, and we were actually able to bring back the people that we put on pause, about 95% of, I think there was about 150 employees. So it was pretty good. So yeah.
Now I asked a question, a similar question that I'm about to ask to another group, because I'm curious if what we're going through, at least initially, was there some analog in your past that you could source a representative instance in your past professionally that helped you, or that this reminded you of? I know for me, for example, back in 2007, 2008, I was originating in the industry, and so it was blindside from my perspective. I was very tunnel vision. This is a never-ending paradise of how things are going to happen, and then all of a sudden, my feet got cut out from underneath me. And so, obviously that being my first instance of a real crisis, that's kind of what I was expecting when COVID first hit, when you first weren't able to see the impacts. The stock market went down rapidly, and that was instantly, that's what I was thinking. Do you guys in your past, when this first happened, was there anything that it reminded you of that you could kind of circle back to and use as a playbook, if you will, to help navigate this? Michael, why don't you go ahead and start us there?
Yeah, very similar to 2007, 2008. I remember warehouse lines basically calling up and saying, hey, we can't fund loans. And, we pulled out the old school dry erase board and put all the loans up and focused obviously on the purchase business. But yeah, the Wall Street changing the infrastructure as far as the loans or what the appetite they were taking. We were concerned about, all of our hedge piped out there, the types of loans that we had. And luckily a few of us had gone through that. So we kept everybody pretty calm and, maintained through all of that. Our business is about 80% purchase anyways. So we were pretty positioned to handle a lot of that infrastructure and changes. And we're pretty conservative as far as loans. We don't do the non-QM, very, very light in the jumbo arena. So it was pretty traditional government, conventional, and FHA, VA, and USDA. And so it just reminded me of those days of, oh my gosh, are we going to have to pull out the dry erase board and go to work? So, but it was good.
Yeah, forget technology. We need the dry erase board. Where's that at?
Yeah.
Renee, what were you guys in 2007, 2008? Where were you?
I was at Black Knight. I was the chief technology officer at Black Knight. So I was in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
So my role was different as a technology service provider. But yeah, this particular COVID experience was very much like preparing for a hurricane. So I had a couple of those hurricanes when I was in Jacksonville, and we had to worry about, people and our data center and all of that. A hurricane comes, but you don't quite know when it's going to come. You don't quite know where it's going to hit. This was pretty similar. So by the beginning of March, it was looking like, I remember I took my last flight to see my daughter in Boston, and I knew that it was going to hit over the next couple of weeks. And it was like not quite sure when, but we knew that it was going to happen in a couple of weeks. Yeah. So we had to get, into our crisis mode, and we really did. It was very similar to a hurricane. We had daily stand-ups several times a day and make sure we, were together to understand how we were protecting our people and our customers and preparing for bringing everyone home. The movement home went very well, surprisingly for a group that, a lot of us weren't working from home. That went very well. We were well prepared from a technology perspective. So we could really help people and focus on people and making sure that we were making the right decisions at the right time to transfer, everyone at home without, and while keeping, everything going from origination and the servicing perspective. And then as things unfolded in March and April, as you know, with all of, the unemployment that was happening, then we, switched into really focused in on our servicing customers and making sure that, we provided them information, that we were hand-holding them through the process. I mean, it's pretty scary time for a lot of people. So we really stretched our empathy. So at the beginning it was just like a hurricane, and then it switched right into, people first, customers first.
Now, tell me about that, Renee, a little bit, if you wouldn't mind. The crisis response, was that a protocol that you guys had in place that you just like, okay, we have the playbook, this is what we need to do in crisis mode, or was it something that you all did more of a kind of an intuitive ad hoc kind of response to it?
It was a bit of both, right? So, we have our BCP plans, our crisis management plans, we have our DR plans and all of that. But there's always different flavors of how that presents. So we had a plan, but a lot of it was, experience and working with the team, and then just, playing it out. This is what's going to happen next. Let's make sure we're on this. So making decisions really early on, because we still have people who have workstations, right? Where we don't allow them to bring their laptops at home, and mostly in our processing areas, not customer facing,
right.
In a branch, obviously. So, making decisions like, what, you can bring your workstation home. We have the security protections for you that we can handle that. Making sure that we were making the right decisions at the right time. As soon as we understood this was going to be happening, which was beginning of March, we was pedal to the metal on implementing Microsoft Teams. We had Skype, but really needed to have a company-wide, enterprise-wide collaboration tool ready to go. So it was, some things just accelerated super fast. So I think it was a mix of having plans, having good collaboration at the executive level, and then, experience of, myself and the team of getting through a crisis with this type of flavor.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, did you see something like that? Were you, I'm sure you and Aaron and the rest of the executive team had some sort of, could reach into your bag of experience to be able to navigate. Did you guys pull from your experience, had quite a bit?
Yeah, and it's funny when Renee was mentioning about a hurricane. It's exactly what I thought about. It's like a nationwide hurricane was hitting, and we have an office in the Charlotte area, and a couple of summers ago there was a hurricane that was threatening there, and we'd work through with the current leadership team how we would, what we would do, and if the office was impacted, where would these people go, and whatnot. And one of the strengths that we had going into COVID was that we were already 40% remote. Our workforce was a significant part was already remote. And because of that, the rest of our company was, we were just set up that way to go remote. We were, laptop based and could become mobile very quickly, as well as we had moved to the cloud. And so we had nothing on-prem to worry about or to figure out how to man that. And so that part, it felt like a hurricane where we were like, okay, how we're going to have to get these people out. And because the technology was already set, we could, as Renee was talking about, focus on the employees. It was a big change for them, especially those who are coming into the office, that now they're going to work from home, and what is that going to mean, and how are we going to do that? And so just we had to, with the employees, we just had a couple of meetings leading up to this point to just kind of walk them through that, because in early March, there's this, you see it coming, you're like, okay, how widespread is this going to be? And are we really not going to have anybody in the office? And then I remember we were meeting twice a week as a leadership team to talk about this coming. And in between two meetings that we had, the NBA started canceling their season. And we had cussed and discussed about this idea of having let's do everybody work from home one day, and just kind of stress test that to see what problems arise, and then that way we can solve them before we have to solve them for real. And and we were talking about what day would be a good day for that, and you don't want to mess up production or manufacturing and slow anything up, and it's the start, springtime and whatnot, and so finally we just said it was said, hey, either we pick the day or the day's going to be picked for us because it's coming now. So and so we did that, and it was successful in the sense that it flushed out some areas that we needed to take care of. Our VPN server, we needed to it stressed a little bit, so we enlarged that server and added some resources there. So from the technology side, I think it was like a hurricane, but I think we were prepared for that, and it made it easier so as to focus on the employee side of that. From the business side, I think Michael's correct. I think it goes back to that 07, 08 timeframe where you weren't sure, what does this really mean? What is this going to look like on the other side? And how soon will how soon will it return to normal? Or is there a new normal that we're going to have to figure out what that is? And how's the government going to respond to that? And we had margin calls coming in and trying to balance that, and how do we balance that with the business, and what does that mean for our business? What we were in the non-QM space, and that evaporated, instantly. And so there was some uncertainty there that caused us to pull back in some areas in technology, and some of the projects we were doing, we pulled those back and put a pause on those. But at the same time, now when you look back, you're like, I wish we would have continued those, because we need those because of the huge production that we that we've seen in May, June, July, and August and beyond.
And that you mentioned the new normal, and I hate to use that word because I hope it's not a new normal, but it seems like for the most part, you all were all three of your organizations and yourselves were prepared a lot more than I would say most companies were in 2008. But I'd like to talk more about the adaptation. What was new? What was kind of the most difficult part of adapting to the past? What's it been now? 6 months? Yeah, we're approaching 6 months. So, yeah. So what's been the most difficult adaptation? Michael, for you guys on your side, what's been the most difficult part of adapting to, for lack of a better term, new normal?
Honestly, Angel, it's the psychological impact of the employees. You've got branches, you've got regional operation centers, you've got corporate offices where you've got everybody, that community of where everybody is together and talking and brainstorming, and that disappears. And now you're trying to figure out a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams call, and you're isolated. You don't have that camaraderie or that community experience anymore. And so we had some folks that we had to really kind of coach through this, and deciding as a ELT, what are we going to do with these folks? Are we going to have folks that can talk with them regularly to impact them? So we obviously emphasize the department stand-up meetings more and more, where everybody was forced to turn their videos on, so they would have that interaction, because a lot of folks will just turn their video on because they don't want to see anything. But after a few weeks, it really helped those individuals because they felt more connected for that. And so that was our biggest hurdle, is the psychological impact of, when am I going to see my coworkers again?
Yeah, that's interesting. Renee?
I think I agree with Michael. It's been a cultural impact. It's changed the way we do work. I miss being face-to-face and in person with my team and with my business partners. I like seeing people's eyeball, face-to-face. It's just a different connection. I am one who really requires the team to put on their camera. So if you're in a meeting with me, I want you to be on camera. And it's solely for the purpose of trying to, have that connection that's so difficult when you're working in your home office. I think it's been pretty tough on people. I think surprisingly enough that we've experienced in some cases some increased output from people. Like people are really delivering more. That they don't have commute times. We have also a large team in India that they don't have commute times either. So we've picked up some really good things. However, it's been it's been a challenge, I think, culturally, and I think we're getting into that period of what I would say like fatigue, like work from home fatigue. I think at the beginning it was like, there was adrenaline, we got to do this, everyone's excited, we have Teams, there's new technology, this is super cool. I can wear what I want when I go to work, and I can, it's just a different atmosphere. But now I think people, and I'll admit myself, I think we're getting a little tired of the work from home and no variety in the day. And someone at Caliber coined, it's like working where you live, and instead of living and working in two separate places. From a Caliber perspective, we haven't made a decision on when we're bringing people back into the office. Again, people first, health and safety first, and we're still trying to determine what that's going to look like. So I think I've told my team, get comfortable at home. I think we left the office thinking that it was going to be like, oh, we'll be back in a couple weeks. No one really imagined that it was going to be 6 months, and without, I don't know when it's going to end. So I think that's where we're at and how we're trying to adapt now.
And I'll add on to Renee's aspect as well too, because all three of us are nationwide, so we're dealing with federal, state, county, and city guidelines as far as what we need to do for the employees. What are we doing for our brick and mortar, and then how are we going to interact with our consumers with all of these changes? So it's been very difficult because all of that data and information is constantly changing. And so I think our employees are overloaded with communication now, because we try to get as much information to them as quickly as possible, but good and bad. Bad is now is like, what's changed, what's there. As Renee said, the output of performance and workload has dramatically increased. As our metrics and KPIs will attest to that, because they don't know when to turn off. They go and do that. And now, the added stress of the children, what the virtual learning, the work, the mom and dads that are working from home that have the kids and still trying to balance the school year, their workload, family. So it's an interesting dynamic of balance, work-life balance. And it's some folks are really struggling too. So we're really trying to help those employees with support mechanisms to try to do that.
I think what was interesting for us at FGMC, and so we have basically a new leadership team over the last 3 years, and the older leadership team was open towards remote workers. And when the new leadership team came in, we really had a bias for people working in an office, and we felt like that it would be more productive, and that it helped build culture, and it would do a lot of positive things there. And so we were really pushing for that. And so in this situation, we got forced into a situation where everybody works remote. And yet, to y'all's point, we found that we're more productive. And so, that's been an interesting dynamic, an interesting change in this, to say, okay, so, because I think the fear was if everybody worked remote, we wouldn't be as productive. It would be harder to do business. And so I think in the initial 6 months, I think we're seeing that, okay, at least initially, we're more productive on that. But I think the interesting thing will be is, Renee, you hit on it, that fatigue factor. And I noticed that Airbnb has already put out there that their working remote policy is going to extend till next Labor Day. And
wow.
And it made me think that I wonder if they're using this as a opportunity to see what are the long-term effects. You can work remote for 2 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, and you really don't get the full. But when you go through all the seasons of the year and you're doing that, you begin to see, hey, how much remote can we really do here and be successful? Because I think there's some that long-term effect. Let's get to the holiday season where everybody's working remote and not around their coworkers. You know, those times where you really have where you're not just working, you're celebrating with your coworkers, and I think people really will miss that. And it'll be interesting to see over a longer period of time, because right now we've got to put the bar at the beginning of next year before we come back in, because we don't have customers coming into any of our locations. And so there's very little upside at this point that we're seeing for us to bring people back in, having to wear masks and all the regulations that we've got to go through.
Cleaning the facilities all the time.
Yeah, and risking that, because to your point, Michael, we've got post-closing, we have to keep our offices open so we can receive those hard docs, and we can't sort of, in a sense, can't contaminate in those locations, whatnot. So I think that, you know, over the next 6 months, we'll find out what that long-term effect is, and how we need to really be reaching out to our employee base in a different way, and what they need to be learning from and whatnot. And so it's been really interesting from that perspective. And yet, while we're really productive, you're waiting. Again, the whole COVID thing is, okay, what's next? What does this mean there? What's going to happen next? What do I need to be ready for?
Coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, the thing too is the high performance and output of our teams. You know, if and when they do come back into that office environment and their production and performance goes down, you know, then you've got to have a conversation with them again. Is like, you know, what you were here, now you're down here. What's, you know, we expect this because that's the new bench.
Right.
You know?
So I want to comment on something that Joe said, you know, with, you know, your philosophy on working from home and how that changed. So we had a philosophy that, you know, our preference was everyone worked in an office. We had very little work from home and only really special cases. And so now we're kind of opening the idea that, hey, we're going to have more work from home. And I think it's going to be driven by, there's some people that really want to work from home, and for their particular situation, it works for them. And long term, you know, they're asking the question, can I work from home? Look, I'm productive now. I'll continue to be productive. Can I work from home? The other thing we're noticing is that as we're doing planning for return to work, that in our large physical locations, we're not going to have room in those locations for the staff that we had working in those offices while maintaining, you know, 6 feet of social distancing. So the reality is that, you know, we're going to be a different mix of work from home, work from the office, even when we enter back into having people in the office. And we're getting prepared for what that looks like. Because I think right now, everyone's on a level playing field. Everybody's at home. We're all remote. You don't have the advantage of, you know, Joe's in the office, Renee's at home, and Renee's trying to, you know, get some time. You know, we can use visual cues to understand when to cut into conversations. I think when we get to this mix part with, you know, people working from home because we can't fit them in office spaces right now and working in the office, it's going to be a whole new shift of challenges and problems that we're going to have to overcome, you know, as a company and as a culture. I don't know if Michael or you or Joe are thinking about that as well.
Yeah, I'm pushing a 4-10 work week. You know, Sunday through Wednesday, Wednesday through Saturday. So they're, you know, the employees can still have that traditional 3-day work, but still that social distancing and still that home balance life of that. But just getting them used to like working either a Saturday or a Sunday is still kind of, you know, new to that environment. But the pickup is they've got 3 days. And then space wise, you know, I've got 12 locations coming up for renewal in December, January. And I'm telling folks, you know, shrink down. You don't need these spaces anymore because now your customers are so used to the virtual environment. You don't need these big spaces. So, you know, commercial real estate sector is going to get hit very, very hard over the next 24, 48 months. So it'll be significant on that too. So,
I think
so we talk about people, process, and technology quite a bit. we've spoken, and it seems like you guys are managing a lot more of the people part of this. You mentioned mental health earlier and everything that's going on from that standpoint. Do you expect how is technology going to help us in this, right? So we think, you mentioned, Renee, earlier, you mentioned Teams, right? That got deployed a lot faster. Certain things got accelerated. Joe, you mentioned some things got kind of put on the back burner. What areas have, do you feel that you need to accelerate now, technology-wise, to help your people? Is it, or is technology involved at all? Is it technology and data that you need to be more, that you need to manage a certain way for your people, or is it just more of kind of the non-technical side of just empathy, mental health, that sort of thing? Joe, take us there in your world. What are your thoughts on technology to get us into a better adaptational mode to where we're at?
So, you know, my viewpoint with technology is that it's the offensive lineman of the corporate world. You only need to hear from us if there's problems. You know, you don't want to. I don't want to be the. We just need to augment what's already being done out there and help others be successful on that front. I think one of the areas that, you know, we slowed up and now we're hurrying up as quickly as we can. We're updating our phone system. We have a soft phone application that is very old and problematic. I can see that in the help desk tickets that we get on that particular piece of software. And so now we're upgrading that in our phone system and to make that easier, and it integrates with the chat features and the conferencing features are all integrated together. And so from that perspective, that should help from as best we can create that community of employees. But in other ways, it's to help people continue to feel connected. And so we can do that from technology, but we also just need to continue to find out what are they working through? What are the issues that they have at home? One other area that we talked about was it came up that what happens if somebody's home, they have a situation at home where they can't work from home anymore. And so we're working through basically, I said, well, I guess what they need is they need a personal BCP. They need to know if my internet goes out or my power goes out or something happens, then what am I going to do around that? And helping people think through that, something that from my perspective, I'm always thinking through that and say, okay, what's going to happen if this office has a problem and whatnot? But we need others to think through that at home to say, okay, what are you going to do in that case here? And how can we help you move along in that area?
Yeah. Michael, have you guys had a desire to accelerate certain technologies to help you with what's going on?
I think, you know, in the financial sector, you've always got to be forward thinking. I think one of our biggest challenges is we've had the tool chest or the tool bag from a technology standpoint for our employees, but they get focused on their day-to-day and they forget what's available to them. You know, as simple as thing as a printer. You know, now they've got to go home and they can't print, but we have a fully DocuSign integrated environment with our LOS system and external all of our LOS, and they forgot that they could actually use the DocuSign environment. We have an AI system that has this huge knowledge base of answers for it. They forget all of these tools that are available to them because they didn't need them, you know, because they were you know, trugging along, you know, making things happen. And then, you know, now our biggest thing is re-educating, you know, via Yammer, via Slack, via text, via whatever channel, you know, real-time videos of like, hey, this is available to you.
Yeah.
You know, take it off the cobwebs and start using it. And the response has been very genuine, because they're like, oh, we're sorry, we forgot about that. And, you know, all the help desk tickets just shrink because these tools have been available for them. And it's fine. You know, they've got a lot of struggles at home and all that. And, you know, our jobs are a support mechanism to give them the tools that they need to take care of the customers, and they forget. So that's been our biggest challenge.
Yeah. Renee, what projects are you accelerating to help your team? Is it a technology thing for you all, or are you still working more on the mental health side?
No, we're very much working on technology. So again, we're working on the technology to really let the technology do what it does best and automate as much as we can. We've got to deal with this paper situation. Printing is just, it's very controlled at Caliber, but there are lots of use cases where you have to print, and printing at home is just a whole new vector of security that you have to deal with. So we're working on our transformation efforts. You know, I kind of laughed when Michael was talking about, you know, how he was, you know, accelerating some of the technologies to just remind people you have this knowledge base available. We just went through the same thing. My help desk tickets have been skyrocketing. We are growing. We've added about 1,000 to our staff during COVID, which is unbelievable that, you know, we have staff we never met face to face. And it's just a whole new way of hiring. So we are reminding people we have a wealth of knowledge for you to self-serve at your own time. And especially for, you know, this blurring of hours where people are working later, maybe they're, you know, helping their kids with their virtual learning now, and maybe they're working after dinner, you know, a way to be able to self-serve themselves when they need it. So we're really pushing the gas on anything from a technology perspective that we can make people more productive, whether they're at home or at work, and then trying to tidy up some of the, you know, this controlled security risks that now have been introduced from this work from home perspective. And you know, e-close, that would be fantastic if we could get there as an industry and make sure that we have the full ability to have an entirely electronic closing process. I hope that happens as soon as we have the ability to do that. The focus will go right to there, because that will reduce a lot of our risk. It will increase our productivity of our staff, and I think it's going to delight our customers as well.
Absolutely. Yep. Good point. Yep.
Yeah. Joe, what do you think about you know, the way you look at technology and data now? Is it has it changed from what we've experienced the past 6 months, or is it you still think the same way? Tell me about your philosophy on technology and data in the mortgage industry, and if it's changed.
Yeah, I don't know that COVID has changed my view of that. I talk to my team all the time. You know, we're talking about maybe you know, we worked through revamp our help desk ticketing system prior to this, and one of the things I would always say is that, well, we're going to let the data drive us on what we do next and how we do that, because we'll see what happens when the tickets roll in. We'll see what issues are key and critical, and what do we need to do to prevent that. And the same thing is true, you know, on the business side of the house, and that getting that data to them to understand turn times and flow and locks and where that's coming from is just been super critical. And you know, I think what COVID has done has put more emphasis on that, because there's less, as Renee and others have pointed out, there's less face-to-face. And so really you want to make sure that everybody's looking and hearing and seeing the same information. And so getting that consistency across the board and making sure that that people can operate off of that information and that is actionable is key.
Yeah. So it sounds like data is the role has always been front and center for you, but now it's even more important so that everybody's on the same page, right?
Yep.
Michael, would you agree with Joe's sentiment? Is that how you guys thinking about data?
Yeah, and the overwhelming accountability of the teams and the staff of looking at that data. You know, it's typically you've got certain departments that focus on data segments of their day-to-day job, but now you've got anywhere from front admins to back end post closers. They're looking at all of their data because they can see the efficiencies and things that are coming in because they're displaced and they're working from home. So they rely on that data as a guide of what we're trying to do, and that helps from our leadership team communicating the goals of the company, where we're going, unprecedented amount of volume, which is a lot of folks in the past didn't see that. They were just focused on their job, but now you've got everybody seeing the same information, and everybody's more accountable to ensure that boat and that ship are still aligned. And so the data has been very helpful for us to do that.
I think that volume is what helps also drive some of that for us, is that it's in this COVID era where nobody wants to repeat 2020. I think seeing that volume and having some records that we were able to hit as far as volume and production and manufacturing has drawn people to say, okay, what's happening today? What's happening this week? What's happening this quarter and whatnot? So it's really kind of been a highlight. It's been a positive out of this for us, and giving people something to cheer about. And so having that data and the reporting out there for people to be able to see that, I think, is important too.
What I've noticed, Joe, is calculated time off requests, because they see the data, they see the workflow, and then like, okay, I need to take a day off on this day, and then they put in a request. And so it's interesting how they're forecasting and using these skill sets to manage their life.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'll say that data has always been, it's the most precious commodity we have as a mortgage industry. I think we've been very blessed as an industry this year that we're having such a banner year at the time of crisis. So I think it's very good. I think it's enabling us to really use that data to provide insights to our business and to really our front line, like Michael said, really all aspects of our company. And so it's been fun to watch it happen. And, I look forward to pushing that on a continual basis. I don't think we do enough with our data in the mortgage industry. Seeing it happen. Certainly, our data that we're focused on very much, obviously there's the origination side, but we also have our servicing side. And it's important for us to, keep on top of, what's happening with our customers, how we can help them, what's happening in the forbearance, how does that compare to nationwide averages. So we've added a lot of different insights specific to this crisis to help our customers and really help our company look at on a holistic basis of what's happening with our customer base and servicing. So it's been a great, I think it's one of the positive benefits of COVID, and I think it's because it's combined with a banner year that we've been able to focus in on, providing those insights.
So you mentioned, you're speaking my love language, by the way, data. So thank you for that. One of the things, and maybe it's just some PTSD for me from the good times pre-2008. Do you guys feel that, because we've had such a great run this year, I think probably all of you here are going to have a record year. Heading into Q4, are you, or maybe even if you go to 2021, are you thinking, let's invest to prepare ourselves for some eventual downturn, whether it's servicing or origination, or are you not thinking that far yet and just trying to kind of, the cash cow's happening, let's just get it and then figure it out later. Help me think through what you guys are thinking from the standpoint of preparing for the future. Michael, why don't you start us there?
Yeah, I am a true believer. Traditional mortgage and finance is throw a body at a problem or throw more bodies in the production line and manufacturing the loans. And so for the last 18 months, I've worked very diligent with some vendors to put machine learning and bot technology into our workflow so that we don't have those ebbs and flows of volume and staffing and the unfortunate of, hey, we've got to, shift some resources and, no longer have a job, as an example. And that's a difficult mindset to encourage our lower left staff managers, because they're old school. They need those bodies, and that machine learning and that AI into that workflow has really helped us elevate our, record volumes without hiring the staff needed to traditionally do that, because the systems are going through and doing that. You still need an FTE or a human intervention to check the checker, basically check the environment, but it's allowed us a significant advantage of resources, because the market right now, everybody is trying to keep their employees. So you can't hire new employees, especially from an underwriting standpoint. So the infrastructure that we've built in has allowed us to get through files much quicker for those underwriters, so that they can do that 7 to 10 loans per day and even more, because the systems are doing a lot of the system automation for them and bringing in that big data. So it's definitely helped us.
That's awesome. Renee, are you thinking the same way? You mentioned earlier that you guys are investing quite a bit into automation. Is that still the case Q4 and going into 2021 for y'all?
Absolutely, yes. So our planned transformation investment was 2020 and 2021. So we will continue with that investment. It always makes it just better when the business is doing well to maintain that investment. So we're working really, I'll say, fast and hard to make sure that we get all of our transformation. We're focused on really the same types of technologies that Michael mentioned, and making sure that we have those technologies, so we don't have to have these sharp ramp ups and ramp downs. And the good news is that we're a little over halfway through 2020, and we're already seeing some of those paybacks in our transformation. But we have a long road ahead of us. We have a lot of work that we're doing, some major implementations that are happening in Q4 of this year. So I told my team just yesterday, it's Labor Day, take a rest this weekend, because the next couple months are going to be really heavy, big implementations with brand new technologies. And I'm sure Joe and Michael can appreciate that when you have those new technologies, I mean, it takes extra effort until you have it really into everybody understands it. We're all working on, smaller chunks of deliveries and an iterative agile style, but that first step's always hard. So we had a major first step in May. We had another major first step in June, August, and now October, November will also be major first steps. So it's nice. All together, but it's still, we have work ahead of us.
Yep.
Exciting times.
It is.
Yeah, we always figure a lot of folks forget the adoption time frame.
Oh yeah.
You spend all these times and resources, and you're like, okay, let's go, and then it's why isn't this being adopted faster?
Yeah.
And so I think all of us have factored in an equation now for adoption.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Adoption needs to be part of the plan for sure, Michael.
Yeah.
Joe?
From a production standpoint, Memorial Day to Labor Day is always, hectic and whatnot. And what I found is that for IT and rolling these projects, working on this, it really becomes a Labor Day to Memorial Day run, is that we're trying to get things implemented, and we've got time with the business stakeholders where they didn't have it before they were running. And so trying to get these things implemented during that time frame, so we can have it in place for the selling season. Because when that comes around, then the stakeholders become scarce. Their time becomes scarce, and so working through that and lining up those projects to get done in the winter months.
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
All right, guys, we're right at time here. I want to just wrap it up with some final any final thoughts from you guys. What I'm hearing so far is there's a focus, and this is almost trite, but really people, process, and technology. You guys have focused a lot on your people to ensure mental health, and you keep the right people. The processes, trying to figure out where automation is necessary, accelerating some initiatives, make life easier for everybody. And when you talk about technology, right, there's a lot of things you can do there to make everybody's life easier. Any final words that you guys have from what I guess lessons learned from COVID would be a good way to end. Renee? we'll start with you. Lessons learned.
We can always do more than we think we can do in a time, and people rise to the occasion no matter what. So you have a dedicated team and a dedicated staff led by great leaders. People can do more than you ever imagined.
Awesome. Agree with that. Joe?
Yeah, I think you asked earlier, part of this is, what was the piece of technology that really helped adjust that? And I think when I was thinking through that, I was like, it's not technology, it was the people on my staff. From an IT perspective, when we were dealing with this, I really came to appreciate the skill sets that we had on here, and the way that people stood up and picked up, and in the midst of sometimes of uncertainty, especially in the late spring and early summer, they really stood up and made a difference. And so I was really proud of their efforts and proud of our efforts overall as a company.
Awesome. Michael?
I welcome COVID actually for our industry because I think it's the catalyst that was needed to make the changes that we've been wanting for years and years, with the automation, sharing of data, making it simpler for the customers for the closing, reduce those timeframes of a close date, making the GSCs accountable for, e-closings, getting the paper document virtual, and get out of this, killing the trees and the lumber and all that stuff. So I think COVID is the key to this catalyst. 2021, depending on, the politics and the elections, could be a significant change in our industry. Who knows? And so you've got multiple sections of our country and world that we've got to battle and still maintain our business. So,
yeah, I agree. I think, and I appreciate you guys for being on the call. I think the CIO role within mortgage is going to be the most powerful role going forward. And I think that COVID, to Michael's point, is helped kind of dictate that. And so for me, and for thinking about data as the most valuable resource, Renee, you said that earlier, it is. And those that are in charge of managing it and using it, which is you guys, play kind of the crucial role. And I think that'll be the case going forward. And so I appreciate you guys being on the call. Thank you for sharing some of your insights. I look forward to seeing some of these things as you continue to materialize these technologies and make the industry better. And I thank you for leading the industry and being exemplars for the rest of your peers in the industry.
Great.
Thanks
you for having us.
It was good to meet Joe and Renee. Good, and thanks, Angel.
Meet you.
You're welcome. Bye, guys. We'll chat soon.